All right, this is going to be an example of a system of inequalities, which when we're dealing with the system, how many inequalities are we dealing with again? 2. Therefore, our first inequality is going to be y is less than 1/2 x plus 1, and then we're going to have y is greater than or equal to x minus 1. Here you have your 2 inequalities. All right, and so let's look at it. Let's label our components of each inequality first. What is our component for our first inequality? Our slope is going to be what here? What is our slope for our first inequality? 1/2. Our start point is going to be 1. For this next inequality, our slope is 1/1. And our start point here is going to be -1. So let's graph this. Let's graph both of these inequalities. And I'm going to graph each inequality individually. But yet at the same time, we're going to test the shade at the end. Does it matter whether you test the shade after each line? No. I just want to show you how to graph each line on the single graph. All right, so now for this particular inequality, I'm going to start at 1. My slope for this inequality is up 1/2, up 1/2, up 1/2, up 1/2. I'm going to go down 1/2, down 1/2, down 1/2. Now, if anybody remember with systems of equations, what were we looking for with systems of equations? Intersection. The intersection of what? The 2 lines. So that would have been our solution. The intersection of 2 lines. We're still dealing with systems. So we're dealing with systems. What do you think we're looking for the solution? The intersection of the shaded areas. All right. The 2 lines are going to intersect, of course. But now we're not looking for where the 2 lines intersect for a point. We're looking for where the 2 lines intersect for a shaded region. Okay? So therefore, here's my line. What type of indication am I going to use or have? I dotted for this one. Therefore, here is my dotted line to indicate this particular inequality. That's the first line. My second line, I'm going to start where? -1. And I'm going to go up 1/1. Again, I want to do as many points as possible for the accuracy of my line. What type of line or indication am I going to have here? A solid line. Therefore, here's my solid line indicating this particular inequality. Now, let's test the shade. If I test the shade for my first inequality, which is y is less than 1/2 x plus 1, I substitute my test point. Can I use my test point of my origin? Yes, because neither line passes through. Therefore, if I plug in 0, it's going to be 0. 0 is less than what? 1. Is this true or false? This is for my dotted line. So therefore, here is my test point. Let me do this in a different color. Actually, let me do it in a color less loud enough. Here is my test point. It's true for my dotted line, so where should I be shaded? Up or down? What true says that we're going to shade what? No, what does true say about? No, it doesn't say above or below. It says the area that my test point is located. Where is my test point located in reference to my dotted line? Below. So I don't shade above. It doesn't tell me to shade above or below when it's true or false. It tells me to shade wherever my test point is located. So in this case, I'm going to shade from my dotted line below my dotted line, because this is where my test point is located. Is everybody good on that? As if we had just did one single line. Now I need to test the shade for my what? Solid line. Well, if I test the shade for my solid line, let's make this red. This is going to be 0 is greater than or equal to -1. Is 0 greater than or equal to -1? Yes, so therefore this is also what? Well, again, what does true say when it tests to be true? I shade where my test point is located. So if I look for this solid line where my test point is located, my test point is located here. So where would I shade? I would shade above where the test point is located, which tells me to shade everything above my solid line. Now I look for intersection of where they shade in the same region. Do we see that area?
Yeah.
Yes. Where do the shaded area intersect? Yes, right here in this slight middle piece right there. So therefore, this would be my solution right in between this region right there is where both shaded regions intersect. And this will be my systems of inequalities. Now, it's not going to look like this all the time, but this is how you would determine your solution, because this is where both shaded regions intersect. Any other questions?
Homework?
Okay.
So that would be the answer.
This would be the answer right here. Once you graph it and you indicate by some type of darker indentation, however you want to indicate it, that this would be the solution. Using a marker, highlighter, but you need to indicate where the shaded areas intersect.